Hello, and welcome to a new edition of H.E.L Explains with your host, Dr. Mario Toubes-Rodrigo, and today we're going to be talking about the thermodynamics of life. If, like me, you had followed The Simpsons for a very long time, you might remember one of the sentences that Homer said once that really struck a chord with me. In this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics. And it is funny because even life, in all its complexity, follows the laws of thermodynamics. There are three main laws of thermodynamics. The first one determines that the energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's only transformed. And from this first law is where the enthalpy is going to be derived. And the enthalpy is the energy that is exchanged with the surroundings once the chemical reaction happens. The second law, it determines that in the universe, chemical reactions tend to generate chaos, and they tend to be spontaneous once that this chaos is increasing. And from this law is where the entropy, this measurement of chaos, derives. And finally, the third law determines that as a system approaches 0 Kelvin, the entropy approaches a constant value. These three laws, when combined, result in the equation that is going to give us what the Gibbs free energy is. This equation is quite simple. Increase in the Gibbs free energy is going to be equal to the changes in enthalpy minus the temperature in Kelvin times the increase in entropy. If the value that we get from this equation is negative, that means that the chemical reaction is going to be spontaneous, it's going to be exergonic. However, if this value is positive, that means that the reaction is going to be not spontaneous and is going to be endergonic. We can think of microbial cells as miniaturized reactors in which a huge amount of different chemical reactions are going to occur within the envelope of this cell. So all of these reactions can be categorized in one of two types. In one of the types, what is going to happen is that simple molecules are going to be combined to generate complex molecules, and this process normally is going to involve spending energy. On the other hand, we can also have that these complex molecules can be broken down to generate simple molecules, and this process mostly is going to generate energy. So we're going to have two types of chemical reactions. One of them is going to be anabolic, if we generate complex molecules, and catabolic if we break down these complex molecules. But in all this exchange of energy, the cells are very good at just using a molecule known as adenosine triphosphate as the energy currency inside of the cell. So what is going to happen is when we are breaking down these complex molecules and we are generating energy, the cell is going to combine adenosine diphosphate and phosphate to generate this ATP. And when the energy is going to require energy for anabolic reaction, then it's going to be the opposite, and the ATP is going to be broken down, and this process is going to release the energy that the cell is going to need for this. So up to this point, I have very much focused on just the modification of molecules. So I focus on chemotrophy, but we can't forget that there are other ways for energies to obtain their energy, and one of them is phototrophy, in which literally they can use energy from sunlight in order to obtain energy for the cell to function. But coming back to chemotrophy, I have talked about the modification of molecules from simple to complex, but that is quite a generalization. And what it tends to happen is that actually what is going to change also in the molecules is the oxidation state. So it's going to be related to the number of electrons that these molecules are going to have. And in biology, what is fundamental is to understand how reduction and oxidation reactions are going to be paired for the energy in the cell to flow. So we're going to call these reactions redox as a combination of reduction and oxidation. And in this very well known in biology energy tower or redox tower, we can see how different pairs of reactions are going to have different electropotential, and that's the E sub 0 that we can see on the right hand side of the figure. So what happens with cells is that combining these different types of reactions, depending on the availability of different substrates, what they're going to do is powering their metabolism. Well, the relationship is very straightforward. The change in the Gibbs free energy is going to be equal to minus the number of electrons that are moving in these reactions times the Faraday constant times the electronic potential. So what is the relationship between this Gibbs free energy, this potential, and the microbial growth? Well, if we remember, when we're talking about the different types of metabolism that we have in the cell, we were talking about catabolism. Catabolism is generating these complex molecules, and that is going to use energy. So the cell is going to be limited by the amount of free energy that it can allocate into building the different building blocks that are going to be constructing these new cells, which we can think of as the final product of these chemical reactions that are happening in the cells as miniaturized reactors. So for growth to happen, the free energy that comes from catabolism needs to be higher than the energy used in anabolism. You know that I love giving like a summary on the last minute of the video with some take-home messages. So for today's video, the first one is that life, despite its complexity, follows exactly the same rules that anything else in the universe, the laws of thermodynamics. Secondly, the energy released by catabolic reactions is going to limit the capacity of organisms to grow. And finally, understanding thermodynamics of life can help us optimize processes, but also it can help us to even understand in which kind of environments, even extraterrestrial environments, life can survive in. And that's it. Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Mario Toubes-Rodrigo, and this is H.E.L Explains. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please come back to us. Thank you very much.